Hola, buenos dias. Este en Panama. Good morning, Jim Laird, joining you live from Panama. So let me get Instagram going here. Hope you're doing well today. I'm in Panama for actually flying back to Nicaragua today. So today had a good weekend in Panama. I really like coming to Panama City. It's nice and easy. It's a really short flight. I have lots of one-way flights out of Managua. Spend a little bit of time here, a couple days, then I go back to reset my visa back to Nicaragua. It's a nice, simple, easy trip. So I hope you're doing well this morning. Dr. Stillman should be joining us shortly. The topic today, nutrition myths debunked, what you really need to know. And, this is nutrition is really kind of a controversial topic. And it really relates a lot to training, right? And what you do in your training at first as a beginner, or maybe you're recovering from an injury, or maybe you're not feeling so well, it's totally different than if you're advanced. It's the same thing with nutrition. I think a lot of people get caught up in one diet. Maybe they used carnivore to get themselves in a little better place, and they think like they need to use carnivore. Good morning. Oh, I'm sorry about that. I don't know if I can fix that or not. I've got a little background noise today, unfortunately. Let me make sure my microphone is the right microphone. Let's see if we can. Well, hopefully, sorry about that. Hopefully it's not too terrible. The joys of live video, especially outdoors. So a lot of people will think that a nutrition is kind of fixed, right? So maybe you do carnivore and it gets you a good result. Maybe you lose some weight, you feel a little bit better. And then all of a sudden, it doesn't work for you anymore 6 months, 8 months down the road. Or maybe you switch to a vegetarian diet and things change, things improve. Well, thank you, Tina, for providing that feedback. My apologies. Got a little background noise here. That's just kind of the way it works when you're doing live videos outside. But so training is the same way. Say you're doing a training program for a certain period of time and you adapt to that training program, then you make some adjustments. It's really the same with nutrition. And if you look at traditional cultures, they generally change with the seasons. So nature kind of builds in this rotation of diet. So, Paul Saladino, who's like a big carnivore guy, moved to Costa Rica, and he found that he needed to add fruits, melons and fruits and different things into his diet because he just didn't feel great. He was surfing a lot outside. He was in the tropics. I find it just about impossible not to eat some sort of fruit and carbohydrates living in Nicaragua, being in Panama, sweating as much as I do. It just really saps electrolytes, nutrients, those sort of things. So I need a little more fruits and carbohydrates than I'm used to. I'm used to eating a lower carb diet. So a lot of people think that they get locked into a certain way of eating, and they don't understand that your eating is going to change with the demands placed on your body. And I try and also eat seasonally. Obviously, I've done the cheat code because I live close to the equator. So pretty much it's like, fruits and vegetables are available all year round. So a lot of people don't really understand that your diet should change with your environment and with your goals. Good morning, Dr. Stillman. How are you doing?
Hello, everyone. I'm great. How are you?
Great. I was just comparing nutrition to training and how your training needs to change over time. And I was talking about how you might do carnivore for a little while and it might make you feel better. I gave the example of Paul Saladino moving to Costa Rica. He needed to add fruits into his diet because he wasn't feeling very good eating just strict carnivore.
Yep.
The diet changes with seasons. Maybe you were a vegetarian for a little while. You needed to adjust your pH, and then maybe you needed to add more meat back into your diet. So I think people get really locked into one way of eating and they aren't flexible in their approach. And they don't understand how your needs change based on your environment, based on your goals, based on what's going on with your health. And so that's where I'd started. So I'll mute myself since I got a little background noise, and I'll let you kind of go from there.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. It's really funny that you're asking me this today. For people who don't know, one of Jim's favorite mentors and teachers is a guy named Bill Hartman, who's a physical therapist up in, I think it's Indianapolis. And Bill has a really unique take on movement, biomechanics, exercise, and recovery from exercise, or after exercise, I should say, and recovery in general from athletic injuries. And even though I don't really speak Bill's lingo, and Bill's got a very unique, uh, almost like another language that he speaks about human movement in. When I
I
listen
can
to
I
it,
can I can translate it for you if you need me to.
I know, right? Well, you do on a regular basis, but it's fascinating to hear him talk about it because there is, I love this quote: "Success leaves clues," and a lot of those clues are the same in training and nutrition and health and wellness. And Jim and I will survey things that are meant for high level athletes or special forces trainees or doctors or trainers or whatever, and we'll see all these different common themes. And when it comes to nutrition, one of my biggest challenges that I face as a clinician is that the vast majority of people are coming in with ideas about nutrition that have been created or planted in their mind by people who really don't necessarily take care of patients, or who don't take good care of patients, or who take care of only one kind of patients. And one thing that I think sets Jim and I apart is that we actually talk a fair amount about failure, because the reality is that when you get to high levels of performance, you're going to run into failure because no one can do it all. One of the things I don't like about the Instagram real version of integrative and functional medicine, which is what I call it. And it's ironic to me because I have an Instagram account that's pretty big. Uh, we make some of this content, but we make it in a way that I hope is communicating the nuance and the complexity. And why is this all so important? Because the reality is that people tend to run after extreme, sensationalist, out there theories and ideas. And sometimes they work for a period of time. One thing I like to say frequently is that no doctor treats the same patient twice, because they're not the same patient. That's not the same doctor. And I've found that to be true over and over again. You try a diet in someone that never worked for them before, and all of a sudden, boom, they do great. And you try the same diet again after a period of time, and it fails. So you have to get comfortable with the reality of uncertainty in the nutrition world. One thing I really would like to do on the podcast I'm starting is I'd like to interview some of the keto gurus on keto and carnivore, because I will regularly get people in the office who have tried all that, and they did everything that the experts on diabetes and A1C said to lower their A1C, and yet they ended up with the same numbers or worse. And that puzzles me greatly as a clinician. We do what we can in order to fix these cases. They're not easy, they're very challenging, but those are things that I see people not talking about. And it's part of the, probably the biggest myth, which is this can be simple, this can be easy. You just need this diet or this lifestyle change or this hack or biohack or this whatever in order to fix your problem, or you just need to cut out this or that. Again, that can work, but all too often what people are doing is they are setting themselves up for a different problem than what they already have. And so long as you know that going in, you at least know that, yes, this may be the right move for me to make right now for my nutrition, but I have to be aware of the fact that it may cause or create problems down the line. So if all of that was a little bit too abstract, uh, big picture, let me give you all some very, very clear examples. we will routinely get people in the practice who've been told, don't eat carbs, don't eat root vegetables. And it's not necessarily root vegetables, but there will be reasons to avoid root vegetables. Like, for example, you shouldn't eat potatoes because they're a nightshade, or you shouldn't eat, I don't know, I think sweet potatoes because they've got oxalates. There's some reason to not eat sweet potatoes. I can't remember what it is. Don't eat this because of that. So people will come in, they're not eating any root vegetables, they're not eating any carbohydrates, they're really tired and they feel bad. What do you eat if you don't eat root vegetables? Well, you tend to eat protein, meat, which may or may not be high fat or low fat. And you tend to eat some vegetables, and then you may or may not eat grains, pseudo grains, etc. But very, very commonly, we will find that these people have a very low intake of potassium. We will explain this to them, show them the numbers, double their potassium intake, and change their life. They'll have more energy, they'll sleep better, they'll be getting more carbs, they'll put on more muscle. They may or may not gain weight. Now, when they gain weight, and gaining weight is we got to unpack that, right? Gaining weight is not bad. What people don't want is to gain fat mass. The reality is people actually love the way they look when they gain muscle and bone mass, because that's really what people think of as the optimal aesthetic, is the young, well-muscled, not necessarily lean, not necessarily, 6, 7, 8% body fat, but, they've got muscle and fat in all the right places, having that optimal body composition. So even though they may gain some weight, they may look better, they certainly feel better, they often sleep better. So, that's just one example. And you'll notice that example isn't, well, we put everyone on the paleo diet, or we put everyone on keto, or we have everyone go carnivore, or we tell everyone to eat beef liver. So if there's one myth that I think needs to be debunked, it's that there's one simple solution. There's one optimal, one size fits all diet. You should all eat this way. And funnily enough, I mean, if you talk to most people who advocate for one or other diets, they'll often say, hey, this is not for everyone, but I love it. It works for me. And you may be just like me, and it may work really, really well for you. And if it does, I would love for you to experience the joy, the happiness, the success that this diet can get for you. Another thing that I see happening in the nutrition world, and a myth that needs to be debunked, and I'm not even sure to what degree this is a myth, but I think it's something that has to be talked about, which is that you've got to eat fresh whole foods. And I see over and over again reasons to avoid canned, frozen, prepackaged, shrink wrapped, processed food. And it's little things. So, for example, I was recently looking in the cans of tomatoes that I've been eating for years and noticed that the lining of the can looks like it's made out of copper. And I should actually probably go confirm this, but I'm pretty sure that they line these cans with copper because it doesn't corrode, it doesn't break down, and copper's bisphenol A free. For those of you who've been paying attention, bisphenol A got a terrible rap because it was associated with breast cancer, and probably deserves that rap, to be fair. But what you'll find is that people, when something's been studied and shown to be bad for them, the manufacturers will often run in the opposite direction, and they'll replace it with something just as bad or even worse. So, I remember when this happened, they started to have bisphenol A free lining stickers on the labels. And that's great. But then I started to do hair testing, and I started to see how much copper was coming out of people and their hair. And I thought, wow, this is profound. These levels of copper coming out of people, and they're having this, what we call copper toxic syndrome. I've done lots of videos on that, lots of webinars with my friend Clark Engelbert, which you should all go listen to because they're really interesting and very impactful. But I was looking at this and I thought, how much copper am I adding to my diet that's not, an organic form of copper, or not the kind of copper you find in fruits and nuts and seeds and vegetables and legumes? How much copper am I adding to my diet that's been leached out of the lining of the tomato can? And it's little, tiny, seemingly inconsequential things like that add up food after food, serving after serving, day after day, week after week, month after month. And that's why I shop heavily in the produce section of the grocery store. Not only that, but the flavor tends to be better. And does it take more time? Yes. But you cannot get away from the fact that the more frozen, processed, packaged, shrink wrapped, whatever your food is going to be, the more you're compromising the nutritional quality and the more you're going to wind up needing supplements. So, even I, eating as healthily and as carefully as I do, almost 90% of ingredients in food cooked from scratch, as much local as possible. We have our own food buying co-op here in Florida that we're a member of. So we get local grass-fed beef, as well as other produce items. Even then, I take supplements. Now, partly that's to fuel performance. And maybe that's another myth I should get into next. But let me sum that one up. You've got to eat whole, natural food from ideally your local environment. Now, I get that that's hard. We don't eat a local seasonal diet here in Florida. It's actually incredibly hard to do because it is so hot and humid here. But that's another story for another day. That next one that I will talk about, and before I get into that, actually, I should mention, we love making content for you guys. We love making videos. We really appreciate you liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing, stillmanwellness.com. Enter your email address. You'll get updates on everything that we're doing, where we're going to be speaking, what we're going to be speaking about. And you can support our efforts to educate the world and teach people how to be healthy for less than $1 a day by joining our optimal wellness membership at stillmanwellness.com. You can also become a patient at my medical practice, stillmanmd.com. Apply for consultation. You get a complimentary discovery call. We'll see if we're a good fit to work together. And then you can book your initial appointment on that call. Jim, anything you want to add to that before we jump into more myths?
Yeah, I think it's very important to eat a natural, as unprocessed as possible. But if there comes a time where you don't have another option, you have to eat conventional beef, or you have to eat canned something or other because you have no other choice. Don't sweat it. If you take care of yourself, your body's extremely resilient. So don't stress yourself to death because you get exposed to some seed oils, or, you have to eat something out of a can from time to time. Just do the best you can. And, there's times, when I worked with a lot of the kids I worked with, they didn't have the ability to buy fresh organic food. And I would teach my kids that I worked with, hey, if you have to buy Walmart conventional meat, just straight, buy the fattiest you can in a ground beef and then drain the fat out of it and eat the lean, because most of the garbage is in the fat. So there are ways around things, but sometimes you have to work with what you got. A lot of people don't have the money to eat, grass-fed beef and things like that. So it's much better, if you have to eat canned sardines, because you can't afford fresh fish, then so be it.
I mean, to be fair, we eat canned fish because it's delicious.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. But there are people out there that don't have the ability to afford, like organic and things like that. And if you're taking care of yourself, you're getting outside, you're drinking plenty of water.
Yeah.
Your body's extremely resilient. It's definitely a lot better than, eating tons of processed food, particularly the people with the keto stuff. Like I shared you a picture with you last night of here in Panama. Obviously, there's a lot of gringos here.
Yeah.
They had
keto tacos.
Keto tacos, which is hilarious. And you would be in rough shape today if you ate what I ate last night. So I asked for a steak, and he's like, "Would you like some cheese?" It came with tortillas, and he's like,
"Yeah,
would you like some cheese with that?" I'm like, "See, I'll take some cheese."
Yeah.
They literally took the steak and wrapped it in cheese, like the whole steak.
That's weird.
What's inside cheese?
That's weird.
And
That's really weird.
I'm thinking Dr. Stillman's nasal congestion would be like off the world charts.
We got to unpack that because people don't know that I'm a little bit allergic to cow's milk and dairy. I have been ever since I was a child. And that's actually another thing that we ought to talk about. You'll often hear people saying like, well, I did this diet, or I did that, or I made this nutrition hack or whatever, and my allergies went away. That can happen, but boy, do individual results vary. And that's okay. It's okay for your individual results to vary.
That's why this is a giant science experiment, because we really don't know. We know we can start with some big rocks that we've seen
absolutely
work with the vast majority of people, but it's fine tuning, it's trying different things. There's, like Bill Hartman, I sent you a video about back pain. There's so many different things that can cause back pain. And you'll have these videos, cure your back pain with this. Well, it cured the back pain for a certain percentage of people, but
Mhm.
the rest of the people didn't get the result they wanted to, because
Right.
maybe it's psychosocial. Maybe it's, there's so many different things. Maybe it's referred pain. Same thing with diet. Some people, you give them a certain diet, they're going to get great results. Other people, not so much. Other people are going to perform terribly on it. So a lot of it is tinkering. And I think people get a little frustrated with that. They think it's like taking your car to the oil change, where there's certain settings for your torque, on all your
Right.
wheels. Different people
How
can,
much
like,
this should I take?
yeah,
How much
yeah.
that should I
So
take?
a lot of it is experimenting and feedback, and most people just don't really want to accept that fact.
And you've got to get comfortable with it, because the reality is everyone in life has to deal with the fact that they are going to have to get tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter with everything about their life to maintain even close to the same level of performance that they have today. That's what we call aging. There is no magic bullet to stop it. There certainly isn't a magic, pill, trick, gadget, gizmo, shiny object to reverse it. Have we got some amazing tools? Have I seen some unbelievable results with what we do in the practice? 100%. I would never undersell what we do. But the reality is, and we have to coach people on this, is that they often come in, they say, well, I went out and I had a cheese pizza and I had 4 beers and I woke up and I felt terrible. And we say, yeah, we know. You're not 20 anymore, you know? And it's and this is a negotiation with yourself. And the negotiation is, what am I going to accept in my life as far as my quality of life? So I was talking about my allergies to dairy. Saturday, I decided that I wanted to take Mrs. Stillman on a date night. And she loves cooking and she loves learning to cook. So I booked the ribeye night at this place called Kitchen Social here in Naples. It was awesome. We had such a good
That's
time with Chef.
that's a strong move. Very well done.
We had a great time learning to cook from Chef Z. And we cooked ribeye, and it was ribeye with mashed potatoes, and it was like a gorgonzola herb butter, and it was so good. And I knew I was going to have congestion for 36 to 48 hours afterward. That's just how my sinus congestion works with, dairy. And sure enough, I had congestion, but we had a wonderful time. We sat next to a really interesting couple who do a combination of marketing and wealth management advising, which I thought was fascinating. And I'm actually going to follow up with them later because I want to talk more with them about what they do. And we had a wonderful evening. Now, the reality is, there is not a dairy free kitchen social in Naples. And we did actually talk, Michelle and I talked about, we should suggest to Chef Z that they should have like a paleo night where they cater to people who have some dietary restrictions, because it wouldn't be that hard. And it would probably improve their, it would, it would increase the number of people they can serve.
Their
But
market reach.
yeah, their market reach. So, but anyway, we had a great night, and I just decided, okay, I'm going to kind of take the hit because I want to enjoy this date night with my wife. And everyone gets to a point where they have to, understand how different foods affect them short term, long term, and in different quantities. Because if I know that if I don't regulate and really abstain from dairy 9 out of 10 days, then my congestion starts to get worse and worse and worse. And that's how symptoms and problems are. And you have to learn how they tend to ramp up and ramp down. And I'm more and more fond now of communicating to people the power of consistency through the phenomenon of compounding, because we really see this working. And this might be another one of the big myths we need to bust, which is that, you follow a diet for 6 weeks, 6 months, even 6 years, and okay, great, we're done. We don't have to do that anymore. No, no, no. It's a daily thing. And the power of compounding really defies the human brain, which tends to think linearly. simply because of the phenomena that we deal with on a daily basis. We don't tend to think in exponential terms. When you look deep into nature, exponential functions are everywhere. So let me give you this example. If you double a penny every day for 30 days, you have $5 million plus dollars. 30 days, doubling the penny. That's it. You start with 1 cent and you get 5 million. It's just 30 days later. If you double a penny every other day for 30 days, 15 doublings, it's $163. Let that sink in. Okay. Now, don't make the mistake of thinking, oh, great. What Dr. Stillman says is that if I go to the gym for an hour and 45 minutes every day for 30 days, I'm going to get exponentially better results than if I went for an hour and 45 minutes every other day. It doesn't work that way because the results you're looking for have a lot more to do with recovery than they do with the actual act of exercise. And we talk about that all the time on all of our content. But the bottom line there is you've got to figure out what habits, what choices are going to have these exponential effects for you. And then you have to do them every single day indefinitely. And that's what falling in love with the process is really all about. Everyone I've ever read, surveyed, talked to who found success, they found a way to fall in love with the process of success. Doesn't matter if it's making money or having a happy marriage or having, a stable, happy family or, getting their health back on track or gaining muscle mass or losing weight or whatever. It's all about falling in love with the process.
Yeah, daily decisions of whether this is taking you towards where you want to be or not are critical. Rob Wolf has a great saying. He's like, you need to get yourself dialed in a good place, and then you need to figure out how many shenanigans you can get away with without taking you off the beaten path too far.
Right.
And some people have one cheat meal and it turns into a 3-week bender. And other people can have a cheat meal and be totally fine. And the next day go right back into what they need to do. So you have to kind of decide that for yourself. And that's a lot of this is, what we do in the coaching program is guiding people through these processes and decisions.
Right.
Because a lot of times it's really hard to take a good look at yourself and be objective.
Right. And of course, also in the medical program, because people come into these, our group coaching calls or one-on-one calls, and we have to really get to know them in order to make intelligent recommendations. So
that's correct. I mean, I was explaining that to somebody who wanted to do like a 1-hour consult with you. And I was like, Dr. Stillman really doesn't like doing those because he really can't get to know you in an hour. Like, that's why we do, the coaching program on the coaching side and in the medical side. We need to get to know you so we can help you make decisions based on.
Well, the other thing that we'll tend to find, like I had this incredible testimonial this past week that I'll share with you at the team meeting later today, of a gentleman who tried our high dose vitamin C protocol, and like 10 years of low back pain went away and 10 years of lower extremity edema went away in 3 days. Now, individual results vary a lot. I put everyone through that protocol and not everyone gets results that are that profound. But if it's 1 in 10 or 1 in 50 or 1 in 100 people that gets that kind of result, and this wasn't mild back pain. The guy was thinking and contemplating surgical intervention for this. And the vitamin C, 3 days, he's seeing huge improvements to the point of complete resolution. Now it's only 3 days. So you could say, oh, well, give it 2 weeks, give it 4, 6 weeks, whatever. But what you'll tend to find in every case is that, let's say that I got someone to do that protocol after an hour consult, right? You dig them out of that hole for 6 weeks, 6 months, but all of their other habits, choices, lifestyle decisions, environmental hazards and exposures, if they remain the same, they just wind up in the same or worse position later on. And that's part of why we don't operate on a one-off consultative basis. It doesn't give people good results. And I've found that they wind up feeling a little bit sold out of those consults. Because often, frankly, there's just one, well, you got to try this and you got to try that. And then you just add more and more and more and more. And there's no focus on who are you? What is your goal? Are we really in a long-term therapeutic relationship where we're really getting to know each other and we're really helping you optimize everything all at once, not right away, but as a process, because that's what helps people to achieve what we would call optimal wellness, which is really what we want to help people do. We don't want to just endlessly tire patch. We don't want to be selling you tires every 6 months because your car is out of alignment. We don't want to be, having you chase endless shiny objects that are not as important as the fundamentals. We want to really show up in a high integrity way for you authentically to help you achieve your goals, your hopes, your dreams, not just fastest way possible, but in the way that's best for you long term for all of your goals. Because you do have to pick and choose what goals you're going to achieve. You cannot win a gold medal at 2 Olympic sports. It does not happen, and you shouldn't try. Can you win in different categories in the same thing? Yeah, a la Michael Phelps, right? But you are not going to be the world's greatest marathoner and the world's greatest powerlifter. These are not compatible. And helping you understand the trade-offs that you are invariably going to face is the work. That's the part where we really help people. So anyway.
Make sure you go over to stillmanwellness.com. This week, our topic in our webinar that you need to be on the email list to attend is basically alkaline versus acidic foods and how to balance yourself out when it's, when being, the benefits and minuses of each and all that good stuff. So.
And people can, if you're watching this in the future on social media, you can access all of our private webinars through the memberships at Stillman Wellness. So thanks everyone for tuning in. Take care. Have a great day. Don't forget to get outside.
Take care.